I guess this is an opportunity for us just to hear a little bit of what's happening behind the scenes in the mission area of life at KXC. In the last month, every aspect of life at KXC has been reimagined, from Sunday gatherings to virtual hubs to family and kids work, but also how we serve the local area. The first wave was trying to find some practical ways virtually we could serve, but also there's many existing ministries that have been through some sort of reimagining. So I'm going to start with you, Karis. Just give us a bit of sort of up-to-date info on what's happening in some of those ministries and some of the adaptations that have taken place.
Yeah, it's been a turbulent time, but we began by just reaching out to our partnerships, that's LCM or Choices or XLP, just offering basically our services in whatever way they needed us to help. They've really taken us up on that. Choices has been a really big part of that, so where they serve vulnerable females, vulnerable mums, families. They've got in touch with us for people who can't leave their homes or can't afford their supplies, baby supplies and nappies, but then also social workers have been contacting Choices who need help. And so we've been able to just galvanise our hubs that are local to those people and get them supporting those clients. So that's been a really big part of the week, and actually just a massive thank you to all of those hubs that have been doing that, because it's on average around 4 or 5 new Choices families a week that we're supporting. So that's been really big. And then we have focused on our sort of homegrown projects, so that's things like Brunch and Women's Drop-In and Growing Hope and the prison ministry, and have basically worked out kind of within that client group or those service users, guests, how we can support them individually. So either that's through hubs, or volunteers from that ministry are going to deliver food parcels and packages and calling those people up, which has meant that we can continue that contact, which has been really good. One thing that was really exciting was about 10 days ago we did a delivery to Pentonville Prison of 100 brownies for the staff there, that was baked by Rise and Bloom, which is a social enterprise that usually sit in ARC. We got hubs that were local to the prison to write handwritten notes, attach them to those brownies, so that the staff that were coming in that day could basically receive not only a delicious chocolate treat, but also a really encouraging message just to lift them up and lift their days. They've never seen anything like that before. So that was a real highlight in seeing just hubs totally just get on board with this.
One of the things that's been beautiful watching the church across the nation and across this city respond and step into this moment by serving the most vulnerable in society. And I guess one of the urgent needs right now is food. You know, we want to serve wherever there's needs, but when there's practical things we can do as the church to serve the most vulnerable, we do want to step in whatever way that we can. So just talk us through, Dan, this kind of particular area of need around food.
Yeah, so I guess we've been doing a bit of listening and a bit of research, and found like a solid report from the Food Foundation, and just a whole load of numbers sort of illustrating, painting the picture of the need around food in the country at the moment. One stat we pulled out was that nearly half of people at the moment are worried about getting the food that they need. I spoke to the guys at Islington Food Bank, which is sadly had to close in this moment, mainly due to sort of health and safety reasons. So they're doing this amazing job of referring all of their existing clients on to other partner organisations. But they said they have detected this increased need for food, and it's mainly around those that are self-isolating at home and unable to sort of get out and get the food that they're used to going and getting. So they're new people there that haven't used food banks before. And then there's just this sort of like fast changing landscape around Islington, Camden, different smaller organisations popping up, and ones that are existing sort of changing the service they're offering. But people generally are just starting to plug that gap and trying to do what they can. So we just love us as a church to be joining that effort, and especially in and around King's Cross. Yeah, there is this definite need, and any extra help is really welcome.
So the last week has been one of those kind of sprint moments where as a team you've pulled together and tried to establish a food bank, the King's Cross Food Bank, within a week to serve this kind of moment of crisis. So it's kind of a short-term project to serve this moment. Just give us a bit of a vision, Zach, because you're going to be bringing leadership to this. You've just joined the KXC staff team, by the way. So massive welcome to Zach. Great to have you on board. But you're jumping into a moment where we're going at pace. Give us the vision for this food bank.
I think the vision really is something quite simple. We're giving people food, which is such a basic human need. It being in a position right now where so many people can't access food, it is clearly devastating. But actually, we see all throughout the Bible the importance of the provision of food from God to his people, and we want to be part of continuing to do that, and actually giving food from a position of not our own abundance of food, actually giving it to them because God has given it to us. I think in my experience within social work and having to work with families and giving them food vouchers, there's this real vulnerability there, and almost a position where they don't like asking, and people almost sometimes say sorry when I have to give them food bank vouchers, because they're like, oh, I'm in this position where I'm asking you to give me something so simple like food. And so I think partly we really want to work on ways, and this process, we're new to this, and we're going to be learning so much from food banks, but we also want to think about ways in which as a church we can dignify these people and elevate them so that they feel like they aren't subservient to us, and we're not just giving them food because we're coming from a place of plenty and they don't have any. It's like, no, this is all a gift from God. Back at the weekend away when Tyler sort of brought up the idea of kinship and forming kinship, and long-term looking at bringing them into a family of people that care for them, that love them, and I'm really excited about that and building those relationships with people all around Islington, that actually if it wasn't for this crisis that we might have not been able to reach out to, or actually as a church felt like we needed to reach out to them. So I think that's the sort of the long-term vision, but actually quite simply we are just going to be giving them food, which is what they need.
I love that. I think sometimes people think, the church will look after spiritual needs, but then others will, meet practical needs. And I love that in the Gospels and the ministry of Jesus, you see no compartmentalization. Jesus could say, I'm the bread of life. In other words, I will feed and satisfy your spiritual, your emotional, your mental needs. But he also gave 5,000 people some bread because that was their, need in that moment. So he meets our ultimate needs, but he also meets our urgent needs. And I love that this is an opportunity to have a holistic approach and to do both. Very practically speaking, Dan, talk us through what this is going to look like.
We interviewed Robin a couple of weeks ago, didn't we, about Banquet. We have had an opportunity on our website to give to Banquet over the last few weeks, and it's really cool that our congregation, KXC, have given £2,000 over the last few weeks, which is going to food banks that are partnered with Banquet all over the country. And now there'll be a similar button, but it will be giving through Banquet to the King's Cross Food Bank. So we're going to partner with them. They're going to be delivering food to us that we're then going to distribute. So partnering with Banquet, we're also going to be partnering with Love Your Neighbour. So that's a campaign that's going actually across the whole country, where lots of churches are stepping up, as we've described, to sort of stand in that gap where it exists in loads of communities all over the country, to say, actually, this is where the church is called, and this is how the church is called, to love its neighbour in this current climate, is providing food to those that need it most.
Incredible. And then, Zach, for those that want to serve, because there are opportunities to, get on board with this, how can people serve?
So we're going to be doing this fairly remotely, obviously. So we will have a central warehouse where we will be putting food together, and so we'll need people to be there. And then actually our biggest need is for delivery drivers. So if you live in and around King's Cross, Islington, Camden, and you have a car, or could be a van, any method of transport, we're also thinking about bikes. So, keen cyclists out there, then, we could be delivering that way. Also, we're thinking about ways of people volunteering remotely, so such as maybe getting in touch with the people that have been referred in, organising a slot for us to do a delivery with them, calling them afterwards to find out how that experience was, anything like that. So there'll be a link that should be live either during the service or after service. The link will come up somewhere at some point on your screen. So go along to that and fill in a form and write what you can offer and the times that you can offer, and we would really appreciate it.
Amazing. Final thing then, Carol, so I want to ask you about the KX Care Fund. So we're establishing a fund to serve those within the congregation, within the family that hit financial or difficulty in some form. Just give us a bit of the vision for that, and then practically how people can give towards it and apply for it.
Yeah, we already know that KXC is such a generous church, and we want to encourage people to keep being generous. where there aren't any buildings, we're having to kind of look at the early church and get inspired by how they operated. And so we've been looking at that, and there's part of Acts 4 talks about how there would be no needy people within their community. It says all the believers were one in heart and mind. No one claimed that any of their possessions was their own, but they shared everything they had. With great power, the apostles continued to testify to the resurrection of the Lord Jesus, and God's grace was so powerfully at work in them that there were no needy persons among them. And so we basically want to adopt the same generosity and the same attitude by setting up this fund. So there's already funds in there, but we want to encourage the church community to participate in raising those funds to meet the needs of anyone within our community who has been financially affected. Whether you attend our hubs, whether you attend any of our ministries from Alpha to Compassion Ministries, basically if you're part of this church community and you need immediate or emergency help with things like bills, prescriptions, particularly counselling, if you've experienced loss or you're grieving, anything like that, you can basically apply to this fund, and hopefully we will be able to help you to meet that need. So you can go to the website to apply for the fund. Again, the link should come up on the screen. But then also you can go to the website if you'd like to give to the fund as well. And it will be open for the duration, for as long as all of this is going on for.
Thank you so much. You guys are an inspiration. We know that it's not been without stress, and you guys have been working hard to respond to this moment so that we as a church can be generous to the world around us, and we can also serve the most vulnerable in King's Cross and Islington, Camden and around this area. So we are so grateful. I just want to encourage you, if you're part of the congregation, let's give generously. That might be with our time, it might be with our financial resources, it might be just practically in ways that we can serve. This is a time for the church to rise up, to serve the most vulnerable and be generous. So let's meet that challenge. Thank you so much, everyone. God bless.